Hello and welcome to another edition of the Girlfriends Aftershow here on JLJ Media. I'm James Lott Jr. I know it's been a while, took some time off for the holidays, restructuring of stuff, but we are back. The Girlfriends Aftershow is back with new episodes as I cover our favorite show from the 2000s that's on Netflix right now, actually. And also you buy it on DVD and stuff, but Netflix, go there and watch it. I was taking care of some other stuff and now I'm back. And I want to thank you guys so much. I mean, the numbers that I've gotten for the episodes I did put out are great. So thank you for watching and commenting and reminiscing with me as we do this. So for those of you guys who don't know, I'm covering Girlfriends kind of season by season. I was doing episode by episode for a while. I'm going to structure it a little differently where I might cover a group of episodes at once or a theme of that season or specific episodes also, maybe specific ones that we'll be covering as we go along. And I'll be having interviews with some of the stars of the show. So that'll all be coming up. And this one, as you can see in the title, is about the girlfriend's friendship, the basis of the whole show, the whole basis of the show. Living Single, Sex and the City, Friends, all these shows that have friends together, living and working and loving. That's the bread and butter, that's the meat potatoes, that is the thing for the show. Toni, Joan, Maya, Lynn, those are our ladies. I love each of them for many, many different reasons. They're all very different. I mean, they really did create very distinct, I mean, so ahead of their time, but also just very distinct, four distinct Black women. Not just Black women, but women, not just women, but characters. They're each their own character. In the whole series, they stayed true to that. Each character stayed true to who they were. And we saw storyline arcs and growth and backsliding that each character did. No character was perfect, which I loved. Girlfriends was one of the few shows that was not afraid to really go there before going there was something to go there with. Girlfriends would go there, which happens in real friendships sometimes, where you may say something that's a little too far, or you go a little too deep, or you do something to hurt that person. They always say hurt the ones you love, right? But there were times when they really did do something to each other. You're like, wow. Friends live with each other, especially in their 20s and 30s. Friends live with each other at times. I live with some of my friends sometimes. But before I even think of all that, get back to just actual, does their friendship make sense? That's kind of the title of this thing. So for me, there are friends of mine that I probably wouldn't have been friends with in certain parts of my life, but because of certain parts of my life, we're friends. Case in point, could be a job situation. We make a lot of friends during jobs, right? Or some people, it's a situation of we grew up in the same block, we were in school together. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons why you're friends with somebody. Could be your ex, and became friends with these people through your ex. I mean, people like you said you would normally probably wouldn't even on your own. Maybe you would. I don't know. So the lowdown is Toni and Joan were childhood friends. So you're like, okay, that makes sense why they're still friends. They're so divergently different. I get the whole, I got out of Fresno, changed my life. They both wanted to, but Toni took the more money approach. But they were friends since they were kids, so that made sense that they were still friends as adults. You have those friends you are just lifelong friends with. Lynn was gathered in college with them. They met up with her and became, roommates and friends with her. So it makes sense that they held on to her because it was a college situation. So those 3 are college friends. There's history after a while. You get used to each other. And then there's Maya, that could have been the weakest link, but it isn't because, she's brought on as Joan's assistant at her job. The girls are in and out of that office all the time. They're all the time. I ain't been in nobody's job that much. It makes me laugh over the years. They're always in that office. They're always doing something. It's so funny. So of course she would see them. She knows Joan's business, and her and Joan became friends, which workplace things do happen. They become friends, and Maya, and it's later intimated that Joan saw something in Maya, and that's why she took under her wing and wanted to kind of help bring her, up, and bring her up. But Maya, of course, is very much her own person. She was the one who was married, had a kid, was her own woman. over the course of the friendships, you saw early on season 1 that Toni tried to hurt Joan. Toni's own things. She tried to act like she was gonna sleep with her boyfriend. Like she tried to hurt her in a way that was really painful. Joan saw through it, which most friendships you do, you know your friends, you're like, okay, I see what's going on. Saw through it and dealt with her. But that's the first thing we saw, that Toni could go really far and cross some lines. And now it's probably the most, of all the friendships, that was the most troubling friendship that, as we saw, fell apart later. Are we surprised it fell apart? Part of me is like, no, it was like the natural progression on some level. Joan had a season where she, which we'll talk about later in the show, later in these episodes, where she a little high and mighty, got a taste of the good life, and was not there for Toni when Toni needed it. And we have those friendships where you're always there for somebody else, and at some point you may get a little selfish on your own, and you're not there for them. That one time, it could change everything. And each of the girls began to have their own relationships with each other. And I love that they started to switch them out. Maya and Lynn had some living together issues and living across from each other, living in her mom's house and that kind of stuff. Lynn was an interesting character anyway, because she was the ultra smart, right, girl with all these degrees who couldn't seem to get her life together, or was that it? She went from friend to friend, place to place. No, I don't know. So that was a tricky character. I always wondered, they finally gave her some substance a little later, but I just think, wow, this character again could be the weakest link, but she's not really. She is that person we all know who's very smart, who's not dumb at all, who wants to be a free spirit. And even though has all that college, wanted to be free and airy, and also is very accepting. And Lynn was one of the better friends when you think about it on the show. She was there for each of her friends when they needed her. When they needed her, she would totally, would totally get in there and would show up when she and her friends needed her. There's more to Lynn than meets the eye, and I know that Persia White has talked about this on several shows, and I hope to get her on this show someday, about how she kind of fought for some of the things that are integral, what she wears, from what she wears to how her journey was as a biracial woman on the show. They did some really amazing things. I always stand out. We'll talk in this episode. We will talk about one day on this show. We're going to talk about it by itself. Her sister who comes to town and who's the Wigga, as they call it. That whole episode to me is fascinating. So we're going to talk about that at some point. That's a whole separate issue. But they gave Lynn some layers and gave us a glimpse into how she grew up, which there are many, I know folks who are like her who grew up the same way she did in predominantly white areas, but being a Black girl, well, she was adopted. Lynn had some really good layers in there. Maya was kind of a little self-righteous, right? But she wasn't that wrong. But then they showed her fall from grace too, with her cheating on Darnell. But they also showed Darnell being kind of stick and stoic. They showed this whole thing about high school sweethearts having a kid and getting married too soon, probably, or very young. How you're not the same person you were at 16 that you are at 25 or 26 or 30. You're just not, right? But Maya was very church going, very upstanding, and would call her girlfriends out on everything. She was that friend who was just call them out. And people would say she was the roundaway girl, she was the ghetto girl. I think they tried to portray that she was a down home chick, but I don't think she was ghetto. That's the whole point. And there's an episode we're going to talk about that too. There's an episode we're going to talk about where she dresses down Joan about that. That I think was a brilliant episode. So no, she's a lot more than she was there for her friends too. She was there for her friends. Joan was always the glue. She was the nucleus. I could see each girl fed into her in a certain way, right? Each girl had their thing with her. It made sense. It totally made sense. Why she was friends with all three of them. They each brought her part and sides of her. And I love that. I love that they were all not just the same type of Black woman, same type of friend. Interesting. But I will tell you, it's the Joan Toni thing that's the most. We'll have more episodes talking about Toni and Joan, and do this off this whole after show, because that's the most kind of dysfunctional. We all have had that. functional relationship, right? The whole wedding stuff, which we'll talk about on the show in the future, and other things. But on face value, you would think they should be friends. But I get why they're friends. And there's an episode where Joan talks about that, why they are friends, and how Toni defended her and saying it was seventh grade or something. Like there was a reason why they became friends. And I had called friends like that, where on paper you would think they wouldn't work, but there was a reason why it worked. But then they always say there's a season for everything, right? I feel the end of their friendship made sense. I didn't like it because I love the characters together, and the show was never quite the same when, in my opinion, when Toni left. But I get why the friendship arc went that direction. To me, it did make sense. You know, at some point, you get tired of your friends treating you a certain way, and the way things were before don't work now. At some point, you outgrow them. It just happens. You know, it just kind of happens. I like to think that they reconciled at some point, and which I have done too. I've had friendships that took a break, they really grew up, we come back. So I'm hoping that's what I'm my own brain. That's what happened. So they do a Girlfriends reboot. They're fine. And that's kind of my hope. Girlfriends is on Netflix. This show, watch any of these episodes or listen to them. Go to JLJ Media on any social media platform. Go to JLJ Media, any streaming service, audio, like iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Google. Girlfriends Aftershow is there. And then on YouTube, my online network, JLJ Media. Go there and you can find the playlist of all the former episodes. And please comment and share and tell everybody. We love Girlfriends. Love the show. The show is just amazing. I'm James Lott Jr. You can see you next time.